Welcome back to Inside Politics. We're talking transgendered politics today with Hetty Weinberg of the Tennessee ACLU and Zach Pruitt, Director of Public Policy for the Tennessee Family Action Council. So I remember before we took a break, we were talking about the enforcement mechanism or lack thereof in the Tennessee proposed bathroom law. How do you interpret what's in that bill and what it means?
Well, I think you're right. It's very hard to figure out how this is going to be interpreted or enforced, because are people going to be standing at the bathroom door saying, you know, show me your birth certificate, which obviously young people don't carry with them, or, you know, prove to me that you are this or that. But more importantly, what I think Zach mentioned, which is, you know, men walking into girls' bathrooms, that's against the law. There are laws that prohibit that, and were that to happen, there would be an enforcement mechanism to not only pull the person out, but probably charge him with some violation. We're talking about transgender girls who are girls using the girls' bathroom, transgender boys who are boys using the boys' bathroom. And it's very important to recognize that this is an issue. The silver lining is that people are beginning to understand who transgender people are and have a conversation, which is, even though there's a lot of fear around it, even though there's a lot of angst, it's important because we are living in a world that's changing, and we are required under our Bill of Rights to treat people equally and fairly.
Mr. Pruitt, let me take the conversation a little bit different line and go back into more of the politics of 2016. As this issue continues to build and develop and spread into communities and states across the country, this sounds like a situation where ultimately there'll be some kind of a lawsuit that will wind up getting it up to the Supreme Court. Does that be where you ultimately think this matter will be decided one way or the other, so people will have some, not just guidance, but actually law to know what they're supposed to be doing?
Yeah, no question. I think that's something we would all agree on, is that this probably will end at the Supreme Court sooner or later.
But that may take a while.
It will. You know, this actually may get fast-tracked more quicker, because essentially right now you have 12 states involved in a lawsuit that directly challenges it. And keep in mind, and this is very important, the principle behind the Tennessee lawsuit is not necessarily bathrooms. It's whether we can, by administrative fiat, change federal law. That's what the issue is about. And so they may like, the ACLU and other organizations may support it because they agree with the end result. But what's going to happen if President Trump decides to, by executive fiat, change the definition of the word immigrant? Right now they're changing the definition of the word sex as it was written in 1972. They want to say it no longer means male and female. Now it means gender identity. If they can do that without the regular notice and comment rulemaking, what else can they do that on? So that's what it's about. So the issue is bigger than bathrooms.
Ms. Weinberg, I know you have a response to that.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, this is a non-binding guidance, and we had my understanding is principals, teachers, superintendents were asking for some guidance from the Department of Education. This is not law, and that's why this lawsuit is frankly political bluster, right? You can't file a lawsuit challenging non-binding interpretive rules by the Department of Education.
Well, she keeps referring to non-binding, but it's non-binding with the strings of billions of dollars attached to it. So as the lawsuit says itself, it is non-binding or an encouragement at the point of a gun is what it is.
But if this gets fast-tracked, we only have 8 Supreme Court justices instead of 9.
Correct.
So we may not get a decision there either if it's a 4-4 decision, because that is not a binding. That's not a binding.
Which is why the circuit court decisions are very important.
And
so, for instance, if in that situation, should the Supreme Court rule 4-4 on this situation?
But only binding in the district it comes up from,
Correct.
the appellate district.
And
that's not nationwide.
Correct.
And the Fourth Circuit.
So confusion could continue.
Absolutely.
The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals sent the Virginia case back down to the federal court and said you misinterpreted gender when you looked at the Title IX requirements.
So with all the issues that are out there for this presidential race are there, this could be one that ultimately will make a difference, because whoever the next president will probably be appointing somebody, unless this current nominee gets through the Senate, which looks unlikely. That person will be appointing somebody new to the Supreme Court, and that will be the 9 justices, assuming he gets up there in the next couple of years to make that decision. So this election becomes even more important.
I would like to say that, you know, 10 years from now, I don't think this will be an issue. Just like 10 years ago, people knew that marriage equality would be on the table and available to everyone. So I think, unfortunately, we're right in the middle of it. Bathrooms have always been the center of civil rights fights. We saw that when we were dealing with the African American community in the 60s, with individuals with AIDS in the 80s. Bathrooms now have become sort of the scapegoat in the transgender community.
Mr. Pruitt, as we wrap up, do you see this as sort of an extension of what went on in the 60s for African Americans, what went on in the 70s and 80s for women, and what's been going on for gays and others during the more current years?
Yeah, I think it's an absurd analogy, simply because bathrooms are based on biology and anatomy, not insidious racism, as what happened in the 60s and 70s. Virtually every building in America has men's and women's restrooms. And to address Ms. Weinberg's point, will this still be an issue in 10 years? I still think that parents are going to be concerned whether their 11-year-old girl is going to have to run into a biological boy in the showers in 10 years. I may be wrong, but I think that the people, especially the people of Tennessee, they don't want their little boys having to shower with little boys, the little girls to shower with little boys.
Eddie Weinberg, the Tennessee ACLU, thank you for joining us today. Zach Pruitt, Director of Public Policy for the Tennessee Family Action Council, thank you. If this does go on for 10 years, I suspect you'll be back here again talking about this. But actually, there's so many hot-button social issues out there, we may have you back to talk about some of those, because I have a feeling you'd be on different sides of those as well. But thank you for joining us.
Sure.
And thank you for joining us on Inside Politics this week. Hope you can be back here again for a future show. You can't get enough politics in the meantime, go to the News Channel 5 network. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there on News Channel 5's website. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here next time. Goodbye.